Hello again, Sangat here to speak about the Sagittarius full moon happening pretty soon in a few days, June 14 or 15, depending on where you are in the world. So here in my place, it happens near midnight. So there is a lot to say about this Sagittarius full moon. Um, as I always say, it is very important to consider the cycle of the moon, right? Not just the full moon as an isolated event. So it is important that we consider that the cycle of this moon started in Gemini. And Gemini is the sign of the mind, right? But the practical mind. For reference to that, I encourage you to see my report, the new moon this month in Gemini. So you may understand what is the energy that this full moon is developing in Sagittarius, right? Because the full moon is the completion of a cycle, right? And why do we speak about the cycle of the moon? Well, we need to consider that the moon is the most immediate source of energy for us on Earth, right? It's right there around the Earth, cycling cycling for about 28 and a half days, what we call a month, right, approximately. And the moon represents our immediate reaction to life and how we deal with the daily activities, right? So that's why the moon is very significant, because it's the most the closest influence that we have from the cosmos, right? Of course, the sun as well, right? Because the sun is the center of the solar system. And if it weren't for the sunlight, we wouldn't be living on the Earth. So the cycle of the moon and the sun and the combination is crucial for us here on Earth. So there are several important points that I will speak about because I think this full moon packs a punch, and I will explain why it does. It has, as I said, it happens on June 14 and 15 and at 23 degrees 25 of Sagittarius. And one of the things to remember is that the previous nodal axis cycle was on the axis of Gemini and Sagittarius. So this full moon is also activating the eclipse that happened. I don't remember the date, but I know that it happened on the 24th degree of Sagittarius. It was probably 2020 or early 2021. I don't remember, but it was the previous nodal axis, right? Now we have it in Taurus and Scorpio. But nevertheless, as you may know, eclipses have an extended shelf life, as we say, right? And one of the things that I read was the Dane-Rudier Sabian symbol, which explains that it could be good fortune coming, right? So let's hope for the best that Sagittarius can give us. And but let's explore on the chart the features of this moon. because there are certain hidden traits that we shouldn't overlook, right? They are not so obvious or evident as, you know, the square to Neptune and the trine and sextile to Saturn, which are the main aspects that this moon forms. However, there are a couple of hidden features that are crucial for this full moon, even though it might feel kind of anodyne, but it is really, I'm going to start by saying this full moon is completely out of bounds. So, and the bounds, we call it, is the latitude, right? Is usually the zodiac, right? The zodiac, as we let's see. Okay, so the zodiac, as we see it like this, it is longitude measures, right? Degrees around the would be the ecliptic, right? Or the equator of the Earth, right? However, there is other measurements that go on the latitude above or below the ecliptic. And those are called the bounds of the planets. And if the planet goes beyond the 23, 27 degrees above or below, it is considered out of bounds. So now the bound moon is very, very extra powerful because it's like having it on steroids, right? So it is a moon that is the energy, the symbols, the archetype is magnified, and meaning that it could go extremely emotional, right? And produce effects that are very, very extreme emotionally, especially in the sign of Sagittarius, which is a sign of expansion, of long range vision of things, especially long range vision to the future. So as I said, from that point of view, it is a moon that is really packing a punch. Now, we have I would like to explain the axis of the mind, which is Gemini and Sagittarius, right? We started the cycle of the moon in Gemini, as I said, is the analytical processes of the mind. It is the immediate environment where we are, you know, with the neighbors, with our teammates or classmates, or we are with siblings, right? It's the cashier at the supermarket, or the clerk in the office, the receptionist that we see at the doctor's office, right? The environment that we live in, the immediate environment, and how we deal with the daily intellectual activities, practical, analytical functions of the mind, right? So that's how the cycle of the moon started, right? Having us analyze and think, and exchanging information. If you've noticed probably that you had the phone ringing off the hook, or having to have conversations with your siblings, with your friends, and there was a lot of activity in the communications. You had a lot of feed, a huge feed in your social media, etc. So a lot of intellectual and conversation activity. Maybe you were reading a lot and you were learning a lot, or teaching even. So it was this establishing contacts, bridges, being more interactive with other people, conversation, exchanging ideas and all that. So that certainly has expanded your perspective. Right now, it has expanded it so much that you have a broader perspective of your reality. And now you are situating yourself in a wider context. And you start to let's see, make connections between those ideas that you were exploring, and then finding new meaning for those ideas, making connections and understanding, and putting the ideas in a broader context. And now we are also coming from your neighborhood, from your local, right, your local activity. Now we're going to the global activity. We learned that the economic dependence on other countries is affecting our local economy, right? That things that happen far away, thousands and thousands of miles away in another continent, is affecting your supermarket right there, 1 mile from your house where you shop every week, or is affecting anything that you need in order to thrive, right? So you see, the Gemini also is commerce and deals and commercial activities. So we see that this full moon, is putting a huge light on international trade, right? Because we see that, for example, the gas prices, Neptune in Pisces, right? Neptune is gas, and the gas prices are going up, for example. And if you notice also, this Neptune in Pisces is traveling the Scorpio decan, right? We have in Pisces, we have the first decan, the first 10 degrees is Pisces, the second 10 degrees is Cancer, the third one is Scorpio, and we have Neptune in the third decan, ruled by what? By Mars and by Pluto. So there is a huge transformation and huge power in the gas industry, right? That is really putting an obstacle, because it is a T-square with this full moon, right? It's just 2 degrees shy of the exact or past the exact T-square, but it's still in orb. 2 degrees is still in orb. So that it is the gas price is exactly affecting not only the global international trade, but is also affecting the commercial and the economic activity in your neighborhood. Right. And first, last month, we were talking about the eclipses that happened in the axis of resources and energy, right? Taurus, resources, Scorpio, energy, shared energy. And we said that we are leaving behind the codependence, and it is becoming so expensive. So as you see, the obstacle here is this Neptune in Pisces creating upheavals. I also spoke about having Neptune in the decan of Mars and Pluto is talking about mass, you know, Pisces and Neptune is mass in the collective killings or genocides like they are happening right now in the world, and not only purposely killing people, but there is also people who are dying of hunger, right? We saw news of Afghanistan, Somalia, and other places where people are increasingly unable to have access to the food and resources, energy, water that they need in order to survive. So there is currently people dying of hunger, and other people dying because they are killed. So, and this is happening all over the world. So this full moon in Sagittarius is putting the light on the global context and how that is affecting us at the local level. So enough for the axis of Gemini and Sagittarius. I will go back when we talk about the rulers. But now I would like to talk more about this T-square with Neptune. So Neptune makes the apex of the T-square, and it's about the collective, as I mentioned. And so it's generating confusion and disillusionment, right? And also ambiguity. So people are very confused. What is going to be the future full moon in Sagittarius? So what is it that the future is has in store for us? So that makes people having second thoughts about the information they receive, and it's kind of blocking the information, Gemini, that we receive and the understanding, because there is such a confusion about the whole situation and the perspective for the future that we are not able to completely grasp what this moon is highlighting for us, because it's too much. It's too much information. It is a lot of global factors that are intervening in what is going locally, right? Many people are complaining about the price of gas in California or in Europe, in a certain country, right? Especially underdeveloped countries that are depending on importation only of the gas, petroleum, right? And depend on others for the energy. They are really struggling, really bad. And the inflation in those underdeveloped countries is even higher and is even more detrimental for people. So you see, with this T-square to Neptune, there is a very serious situation regarding the trying to grasp what could happen locally if we consider all the factors that are global. Some people, as I said, are are complaining about the prices, the inflation, but it's not local. It is completely global. Every country in the world is going through the same thing. And this is due to the over globalization, right? We depended on the agricultural chemicals, for example, from Ukraine and Russia, and now those are not coming. So what happens is that the agriculture is struggling to produce the food that we need. So there are many factors that common people, and especially if you don't listen to the news, you don't know what's going on globally, and you think that it's just your president or your local store, or it's the fault of the gas station. No, it's not the gas station. It's not the local store. It is coming from thousands of miles away from your home, from another continent. So that's the thing that we need to consider. Now, the moon and the sun in Gemini here makes a trine. The sun makes a trine to Saturn, and the moon sextile to Saturn. So in regarding the moon is people, right? So the people are becoming more cautious, right? And you are reacting in introspective mode, very reserved. You don't want to spend as much. You start being more frugal. You start being more thrifty if you can. Instead of buying things, what you do is you start exchanging things. For example, there is a Facebook group called Buy Nothing, for example, where neighbors exchange things that they don't need with other people who need those things. So that's one of the features that these kind of situations can help develop, right? So that's one of the things, but you are trying to control yourself, being more cautious, more reserved, making serious and efforts and working harder in order to overcome the problems. And remember, Saturn is in Aquarius, the sign of the collective, the society, that everybody, the people, the common people, the common folk. So it also promotes that people are investigating more into scientific findings, and also looking for communication, more serious, right, communications, more trustworthy, for example, radio stations or TV news, right? Because we see so much sensation news that are just to scare people, right? And people are coming more cautious about it, realizing, well, not all news is good news or accurate news. Not all gossip is good to listen to. And so people are becoming more cautious about things. And the other thing is that the moon also represents land and farming and the products of the land. So this sextile helps to become more conservative about the farming, right? And it also promotes that people go to sources of information that are trustworthy, as I said before, because of their experience, Saturn, their experience, old age, for example. So people will benefit from going to elderly people to ask for advice, for example, for these situations. There are people still alive who had gone through the Great Depression, for example, that can advise us today how to cope and how to cope with this kind of situation. So now the sun in trine to Saturn, it encourages us to take personal responsibility, to be more earnest, to be more disciplined, to develop endurance, right? Endurance and hard work, to become hard workers, and also to seek guidance as well from more experienced authority figures, those the authority figures that you can trust, that have research, that have had experience, for example, that are more scientific oriented, that have technological information that could be useful, for example, for farming. And also it helps to set up long-term goals, right, and objectives, and that are and become creative of projects that have more durable long-term results, right, and being able to create new ways of doing things, and especially since it is a trine of air signs, it is a lot of new ideas, creative ideas, and creative communication that can help people plan ahead and devise objectives, goals, projects, plan ahead in order to achieve those goals, right? But those goals need to have hard work, right? And there is a new sense of a reality, a mental reality, that we need to develop new ideas, right? We need to develop projects and solutions that will be for the long run. Also, I want to say that Gemini will be the next conjunction of Saturn and Uranus. They are now in the last quarter square of their cycle, and next time they conjoin will be in Gemini. I don't remember the exact degree, but I think it's by the end of Gemini, if I'm not mistaken. So all this activity in Gemini, you need to consider that it is preceding or forecasting or announcing what is coming in 2032, when Saturn and Uranus will join there. So the moon is also not only out of bounds, but she is in the Leo decan. So this moon not only is full moon because it is opposite the sun, but she is in the decan of the sun. So this moon has a certain degree of authority, right? It is a moon that wants to be queen, right? She has the power of authority. So that's another thing that this moon wants to be heard, and she wants to impose her power, right? Leo is the sign of kings and queens, and the archetype is that of an authority. So the emotional content of this full moon is really powerful and imposes authority. So another thing about I think now the last thing that I want to explain is the rulers of this sun and this moon. So let's start by the ruler of the moon. It is Jupiter. Jupiter is here in the sign of Aries. Is very comfortable. Aries is another fire sign. It is in trine by sign to the moon and all that, and she has Jupiter has had lately a couple weeks ago the conjunction with Mars. So Mars is carrying that Jupiterian energy, right? And now is conjunct Chiron. But I want to speak more about this Jupiter. Because this Jupiter is unaspected. So it is barely 1 degree declination, but the thing is that, sorry. The thing is that this Jupiter doesn't make any aspect to anything traditional planets, only a square to Black Moon Lilith, but other than that, it is not aspecting any other planet on the chart. So what happens when a planet is not aspected? It's like having it completely disconnected from the rest of the chart. So it is not associated with the moon only because it's the ruler, but it's not associated with any of the other archetypes. It's working alone. And having Jupiter, the biggest planet in the solar system, working alone and free from any other constraint, it has the potential to be dangerous, right? Too much impulsivity, Aries, too much expansion. And not only does Jupiter affect the sign where it is, but also in the area of experience where it falls in your chart, but is also affecting the houses ruled by Jupiter, which is the traditional ruler of Pisces, and is also the ruler of the moon in Sagittarius, right? The Sagittarius area of your chart. So you need to consider those 3 areas, Aries, Pisces, and Sagittarius, as being like on steroids. So Jupiter can go, can expand so much its archetype that especially in Aries, which is impulsive, very primitive energy, right? The impulse to do, but we don't know if we can continue, because Aries is the sign of initiation, but not necessarily keeping up with the work. So it's like Jupiter occupying the whole chart, right? And so big of an energy. So it is, as I said, disconnected from the rest of the elements of the chart, and that could become very out of control. So it's a force that could be out of control, very chaotic. So I think this full moon is, first of all, is full, which is an emotional bigger energy. Second, in Sagittarius, which is expansive already. And then it's out of bound, which is more expanded. And then we have the ruler that is out of control. So this moon really is an exaggeration of the moon archetype. So you can see the best and the worst of Jupiter, right? Jupiter can also be seen in charts of people who die. So Jupiter is not only beneficial and lucky and optimistic and generous, and it is all those things, I don't deny it, but Jupiter has its dark side as well. And when it is unaspected, we don't know which side Jupiter will exaggerate, right? We really don't know, because it's free and disconnected. So it could be over optimistic, it could be the super lucky, right? Like Rain Rudier said of the 24th degree, where the moon is, that an extreme luck can come to your life. So, or could be extra protection, or super stimulant, right? An ultra stimulation. But it could be also very illegal, right? Because Jupiter rules legality and legal issues. It could be, for example, religious fanaticism taken to the extreme, and let's not think about that, what it can cause. So it could be problems accepting authority, especially, women authority. So, and it could go also against motherhood. It could exaggerate issues of maternity. And it could be people wanting too much independence. We don't want the situation, so we want freedom. When really freedom from the situation is not possible, which is already a problem. So it promotes non-conforming ideas or ideologies, non-conforming cultural ideas, rejection or overstimulation of religious ideas, over consideration of education, right? And it could be so hungry to learn the truth that it could launch a campaign, finding the truth. And we see that, for example, on the January 6th hearings that we are listening now. So there is a deeper search of the truth, right? And it could be extreme good fortune as well. Jupiter is the happy-go-lucky, good sense of humor and confidence and adventure. And so it could promote this sense of, I want my freedom, I want to embark in an adventure that is very risky. So that's regarding Jupiter. But let me tell you, the ruler of the sun, which is Mercury, is also unaspected. So it's considered the unaspected planet, only considering the traditional aspects, which are sextile, trines, quincunx, and squares, oppositions, conjunctions. So it's free of any of those aspects. So I don't consider this square to Saturn because it's out of sign. So the square would be out of sign. So I don't consider it a square. It is already done with the square at this point. So Mercury is also unaspected. So the sun is also influenced by this Mercury. So your mind is going at 1,000 miles per hour. You are in learning and speaking and communicating mode all time, all day long. It's speaking on the phone, following social media, and answering and replying and fighting for your ideas, and on and on and on. So this Mercury is also going crazy. But the dark part of Mercury is that it's too fickle. It's variable. It comes and goes with the ideas and has high mobility. So you may be walking a lot, biking a lot, right? Because of the gas price, you may choose biking, for example, something that is out of the norm these days, right? And be careful on the road, right? Be very careful if you are biking. So, but this Mercury makes your mind very unstable, vivacious, right? And very changeable, very fickle. You think one thing now and the opposite next, and so it's also problematic for those professions like journalism, like any communication, translators, interpreters, people who work in broadcasting, radio, TV, people who write online, right? And any people who work online, right? And communicate. Mercury also rules the internet institution per se. So it could go bunks, so it could be like hacks. Be very careful. Any email that is suspicious, you need to be very careful opening emails that you don't know the sender, and offers that are very attractive, right? I've had since the new moon, I've had so many scam calls in my phone. It's terrible how the scammers are, taking advantage of this situation. So, of course, you don't answer numbers that you don't know. You let them be. If they really need to speak with you, they will leave a voicemail or they will call again, and you may even look up numbers online and you will see how many are just scammers. So you will probably have an intensification of communications, and there could be also amazing intellectual feats. So people publishing, for example, new and groundbreaking discoveries or findings or ideas, inventions. Mercury can also be very inventive. and it will also intensify the intellectual productivity. So people will be more productive intellectually. And if you're a writer, you will have the energy and the ideas to create more content. But with the same token, it could go the other way. It could because Mercury, when it is in this situation that is completely unaspected and disconnected, so your mind can go disconnected as well and very distracted, and forgetting things and not paying attention, absent-mindedness. And you may talk too much, like I'm talking right now, right? Talking too much and thinking too much, going all the time. So your mind can go overdrive, and having a lot of conversation with people in general, or if you don't have anybody to speak to, you may be reading a lot or learning a lot, right? So as you see, this is not just a simple full moon in Sagittarius. It could be a good challenge, right? To have this this full moon. I hope I gave you food for thoughts, right? I never like to interpret by sign, because every chart, every individual chart is so complex. You have planets, the full moon may aspect directly your natal planets, but the full moon may not touch anything. And sometimes, even though the moon could aspect certain parts of your chart, you may not feel it. So just pay attention. And for example, I keep a journal of things that happen related to the aspects, the transits that I'm having. And you may have discoveries, especially now that Mercury is activating our mind, you may get understandings with the full moon. So it could be as simple as that having a lot of ideas coming to you, and then developing an understanding by linking those ideas in a different way. So I hope it helps. And if you like the kind of videos that I make, please like, subscribe to my channel, and make a comment. You always know where to find me. My email address is in the description box below, and I hope to hear from you soon. Bye now.